Scammers are everywhere, but some victims turn the tables. From the scammer forced to pay thousands to the cold caller who got a taste of his own medicine. And then there's the victim who launched a 2-year revenge campaign. Sometimes payback goes way further than anyone expects. On today's episode of The Infographics Show, we're looking at the times scammers messed with the wrong people. Number 10. Sitting at home playing video games on livestream for money sounds like a dream job for most of us, but getting big on Twitch is no walk in the park. Building up enough of a fan base that you can reliably make money off your streams can take years. Every Twitch streamer dreams of their white whale, the massive donation that makes it all worth it. For a while, one name made those dreams come true. A user called iNexus Ninja. This guy, real name Anthony Archer, was an Australian teenager who was constantly posting about his wealth on Twitter, even literally posting pictures of his fat stacks of cash for clout. He also went around to a variety of streams and donated thousands of dollars at a time. What a generous guy, right? Of course not. The scam was this: donate huge sums of money via PayPal and then wait a month and ask for that money back via PayPal's chargeback system. This is basically the digital version of the old prank where you put a $100 bill on the end of a fishing line and then yank it away as soon as someone tries to pick it up. Except it's worse. In most cases, the streamers would actually have spent some of that money by the time he was asking for it back. Then one day, Anthony tried to charge back a $10,000 donation to the streamer Soda Poppin', but PayPal wasn't having it. They denied the request and demanded Anthony pay up. Enough people complained that PayPal finally caught on and shut Anthony down. When he was busted, he swore it wasn't malicious, claiming that he only charged back the $10,000 to Soda Poppin' after hearing the streamer had a nice house and didn't need the money. Sure, Anthony's stacks might have gotten less fat, but at least he didn't have our next guy hunting him down. Number 9. Scammers sure are persistent, but not as persistent as a Redditor on a mission to ruin a scammer's day. That's what happened when a cold caller wouldn't stop pestering a British man, blowing up his work phone with call after call. But the scammer made a rookie mistake. He didn't withhold his number or use a proxy. When the scammer claimed that he had won £5 million in a sweepstakes he never entered, our hero fired back. He would split the prize, but only if the scammer could tell him his name. And when the scammer failed this simple task, even getting it wrong again after our hero had told him, he got a laugh in his face for his trouble. The scammer hung up, but that wasn't the end of it. It was just the beginning, because our hero was thirsty for vengeance and had a lot of free time on his hands. Within the next hour, he called the scammer over 100 times on the phone. Sometimes the scammer would actually answer the call and beg the caller to stop, apologizing for the initial scam. But that wasn't enough. Other times he would pick up the phone and try to cuss out the caller, but that didn't seem to scare him. It was more than just revenge now, it was a game, and the caller loved playing. And not just for an hour either. Oh no. Our cell phone John Wick actually saved the scammer's contact in his phone and will occasionally go on another calling spree just to torment him for fun. And given that the scammer struck first, he's got no legal recourse for stopping these relentless calls from coming. In response to the story, one Redditor suggested that the Revenger put the scammer's phone number on Craigslist in a fake ad for people applying to be extras for the new Star Wars movie. All they need to do is call up and give their audition in Chiriwook, the language of the Wookiee. At least it didn't all happen directly in front of his customers. Number 8. If you live in the continental US, chances are you're going to need a car, whether it's for commuting to work, picking up your kids from school, or even grocery shopping. Those cars have to be road legal and ideally not blow up at 70 on the highway, which means dealing with mechanics. And a lot of mechanics know this. They like to use that specialist knowledge to screw you for extra money, especially if they think that you look like you don't know much about cars. It's the blue-collar equivalent of Wall Street brokers. One mechanic, who made an awful lot of sexist assumptions about cars, thought that he could pull this exact scam on a female Redditor who looked, by her own admission, like a pretty stereotypical girly girl. She was 5'3", with long blonde hair and a baby face that made her look like a teen, even though she was actually 26. While she wasn't a mechanic herself, her father and brother were in the trade, so she'd picked up plenty of second-hand car knowledge. But the mechanic didn't know that. He also didn't know that she had just replaced her car's air filter, so that's going to be relevant in a sec. After doing the full examination of the car, he tried to charge her an eye-watering $1,500 in repairs that the car didn't need. New brake pads, new rotors, new calipers, replacing the serpentine and drive belt, and the list of phony charges goes on and on. He might have gotten away with it if he hadn't overplayed his hand. He showed her her own air filter, which had been clogged with dust, dirt, and even a dead wasp. But our Reddit gal knew that she was being shafted and decided to turn the tables on the sleazy grease monkey scamming her. After working out the scheme with her father, she played dumb and gave him a call in the middle of the mechanic's waiting room. She acted surprised and distressed, and her father played dumb over the phone too, even as the mechanic listed off all the ridiculous repairs. Then, they both burst out laughing in the mechanic's face, right in front of his customers. Exposed and beet red, he had no choice but to clear the junk from her air filter and then reinstall it for free. Justice served. Sometimes, like in our next story, the scammer really is their own worst enemy. Number 7. Do you remember that Seth Rogen movie, The Interview? That's okay, neither do we. But one guy out there is probably going to be thinking about The Interview for the rest of his life because of how badly his scam backfired. Back in 2014, a man named Jason Best from Clifton, Ohio in the USA heard about the buzz around the movie and thought that he could use it to get rich quick. He found a local theater that was part of the limited theatrical release of the film and bought up to $650 worth of tickets. And keep in mind, this was 2014, so that was still a lot of tickets. The intention was to resell them at a profit and watch the cash roll in. Unfortunately, there was one problem. Sony sold the distribution rights for the movie to Netflix, YouTube, and Hulu, and apparently nobody in Best's hometown was dumb enough to buy marked-up cinema tickets when they could just stream the movie at home. But that was no skin off Jason Best's nose. He claimed the theater's website promised refunds. All he had to do was show up and ask. But when he did, the manager shut him down. Refunds were never issued for special events like The Interview's limited showing. Then there's the whole trying to scalp the tickets thing, which is illegal. But Best wasn't going to take this injustice lying down. In an action that could only be described as absolutely delusional, he took his story to the local news and tried to get the public on his side. It went about as well as you could possibly expect. Even the news didn't seem to have much sympathy for him. In the news clip, the Chiron said Jason Best, movie ticket scalper, which is especially funny considering that the news show he appeared on was called On Your Side. Speaking of scammers losing money in the dumbest way possible, number 6. Outside of TV, most scammers aren't criminal masterminds. If you are highly intelligent with loose morals, why would you risk legal consequences when you could go into insurance or the pharmaceutical industry? Only the bottom feeders are out here trying to pilfer hundreds of dollars out of strangers on money exchange services. And sometimes, when they mess with someone smarter than them, they end up really embarrassing themselves and doing the complete opposite. This happened when some scammer was trying to steal $160 from a Redditor on Cash App. Deciding to see just how gullible this scammer was, a Redditor tried to take him for a ride, sending him just a single dollar to spite him. The scammer immediately popped back up in his DMs saying, "Lol, wrong amount, but I got the dollar you sent. You can just send me $159 and it'll still be fine." Little did the scammer know it would not still be fine for him. After apologizing for not sending over the full amount immediately, it must have been a simple glitch, the Redditor pulled the old reverse Uno. Rather than sending $159 to the scammer, he sent a request for $159 from the scammer. Given how thirsty the scammer seemed, the Redditor figured he probably wouldn't look before he leaped. He'd just see the right amount of money and then hit accept. And that's exactly what he did. The scammer had actually made our Reddit hero a net $158 richer, at which point the Redditor blocked the scammer, happy with the day's work. We imagine the scammer still probably cringes about it to this day. Speaking of cringe, number 5. The pyramid scheme, also called multi-level marketing, is one of the oldest scams in the book. It's where a business is built on recruiting new members instead of actually from supplying a product to customers. If you've ever gotten an unsolicited DM from some distant cousin or something asking if you've ever wanted to be your own boss, you've come close to experiencing a pyramid scheme. But one Reddit user called a Drunken Black Belt got roped in a little further than most. He was desperately in need of money and responded to an ad for a sales position on Craigslist. The person who posted the ad promised Drunken Black Belt a good hourly rate plus commission, so he decided to make the long drive out to the business's location. When he showed up, he noticed his first red flag. There was a big sign on the window advertising the office space as for rent. But Drunken Black Belt gave them the benefit of the doubt, thinking that maybe they'd only recently started renting the business and the realtor hadn't taken the sign down yet. Once inside, he realized it was all a scam. The room was empty, just folding tables, plastic chairs, and stock photos on the wall, and of course an org chart shaped like a giant pyramid. Along with some other potential recruits, Drunken Black Belt got shown a presentation by the owner of the company, a guy called David. David went ahead and told them how they could quickly rise up through the company and make tons of money selling his kitchen knife sets. But of course, they'd have to pay for their first set of knives. Drunken Black Belt knew this was all a scam, so he left, and on the way out he called the number on the office space for rent sign in the window, and once he got through to a real person, he laid out everything he had seen. Let's just say the building owners were not amused. All things considered, that's probably still the best possible outcome for being lured into an empty building by people with a lot of knives. Still not as insane as our next story, though. Number 4. This story was posted on Reddit by a poster called Jock BBC Boy. After finishing college and getting a good job, he thought he'd be good to himself out there and start dating. So he downloaded Tinder and ended up matching with a girl called Talia. Talia lived in another town but was in the area visiting her cousin. The poster and Talia hit it off pretty quickly, and after 2 weeks of chatting, they finally met up in person. Talia explained to the poster that she'd been laid off from her job and had been getting by with the money she borrowed from her dad and grandma. The poster offered to help her out by helping her get a payday loan that would come out of a new linked checking account. Talia promised to pay the poster back in 2 weeks once she was set up in her new job. But 2 weeks came and went, and the OP was still getting charged by the payday lenders. She gave him a check to deposit in the account, but it bounced. So he tried calling her, but she blocked his number. Then the payday lender started calling him asking for their money, because before running away with the bag, Talia had given them his number. OP's friend helped him look her up. They found that she had 2 accounts on all her social media and had been defrauding guys like this for a long time. Worse still, when they contacted the payday lenders about the situation, they found out that she had pulled this scam using her own dad and grandma's bank accounts too. OP turned all of the evidence over, and by the end of the year, Talia was behind bars. Her dad and grandma were arrested too, but were given lighter charges in exchange for testifying against her. Talia might have been even more screwed if she ran into Number 3. Kanye West is now most synonymous with public crashouts, recreational nitrous oxide, and anti-Semitism. But he was once much better known for his music and for his very popular Yeezy shoe line. And a crisp pair of second-hand Yeezys is exactly how our next tale of karmic revenge begins. Our Reddit hero found a pair of his dream shoes online and decided to pay for them with Zelle QuickPay, a popular online service. After all, he had checked out the seller's Insta and everything seemed pretty legit. He didn't seem like the kind of guy who needed to nickel and dime strangers for quick cash, and according to the photos, he definitely had a good supply of the shoes. But once the money was transferred, the seller disappeared. Our hero had been scammed. But he wasn't gonna leave it like that. He wanted his money back, and he also wanted to teach this low-rent scammer a lesson about never pulling this scam on an enthusiastic sneakerhead again. The Reddit user went full detective, finding the scammer on Facebook and then his address and number through the white pages. But here is the first crazy twist. This guy actually had nothing to do with it. The real scammer had stolen his phone at a New Year's Eve party and was stealing his identity as a front for his dodgy dealings. But our dogged detective wasn't thrown off. The victim of the identity theft had tracked down the scammer's locked Facebook, and our hero had screenshotted it, and then he sent it straight to the scammer through his Venmo. The scammer freaked out, demanding to know how the Redditor had gotten his info. Then it was just a matter of some clever bluffing. The Redditor told the scammer that he had the information because his bank's fraud investigation team was on the case, and if he didn't send back the money and stop his activities immediately, he would be looking at a long time in jail. The scammer panicked, sent the money back, and shut down all of his accounts. The Redditor passed the evidence on to the identity theft victim, who in turn handed it to his detective. The moral of the story: if you stand between a sneakerhead and his fresh kicks, prepare to have a horrible time. Number 2. Payday lenders are infamous for terrorizing people and destroying lives, but in this next story, a payday lender got ruined after messing with one type of person you should never mess with: a wife guy. Andrew Terrion of Rhode Island, USA, had been caught in a type of scam known as phantom debt, where scammers hassle people for money they don't owe. These scams are common because they are virtually untraceable. The data that the scammers base their false debts on can be sold over and over again, so finding the sources becomes extremely difficult. That is, unless you're as dedicated as Andrew Terrion. One day, his wife got a scary-sounding voicemail from a man saying that Andrew had been officially notified. Terrion then got a call from the same guy, who called himself Charles Cartwright, and who said that Terrion owed $700 on a payday loan. Terrion suspected this was a scam and hung up, only for Cartwright to call back and threaten to assault Terrion's wife. Big mistake. Tarion spent the next 2 years trying to figure out who Cartwright was and who he worked for. He made calls, he met up with other people in the debt collection business, and he did everything he could to learn more. He lived a double life, spending most nights going full hackerman mode to follow up on leads. Sometimes he would make small repayments on the loan just so he could track the bank transfer to see where it went. One lead he followed got him in touch with a company called Lakefront Processing Solutions. Through them, he learned the debt was tied to a loan that he had taken out and paid off. As he kept pulling on the threads, one name kept coming up: Joel Tucker, a payday loan shark from Kansas City. Tarion tracked down one of Tucker's former employees who helped him make contact. The moment Tucker was on the line, Tarion hit record, hoping for a confession. Tucker never admitted to anything, but that wasn't going to stop Tarion. He had been keeping records of every step of his investigation, and in December 2016, the FTC sued Tucker for selling phantom debt. There's only one vengeance more hardcore than that. Number 1. It started off as a whirlwind romance between our Redditor, a 30-year-old woman with a stable corporate job, and a charming Latin American man in the country on a tourist visa. They had great chemistry and an extremely, let's say, passionate physical relationship. What's not to love? Then, the other shoe dropped. He asked her if she'd be down to be his sugar mommy, basically paying him a salary for dating her. Offended by this, she and her friend started looking into him, only to find out he had at least 6 different online accounts in his name. Presumably, he used them to rope in different women with the hopes of getting multiple sugar mommy revenue streams. Talk about passive income. She also found out that despite being out there on a tourist visa, he was also working for an American company illegally, and he had a wife and kids at home too. So, she got him and the company he worked for reported to law enforcement, and when his tourist visa runs out, he is unlikely to be legally able to enter the country again. That is one lady you really don't want to scam. Some scammers messed with the wrong people, but others managed to pull off schemes that shocked the internet. Watch Worst Online Scams to see just how far these cons can go, or click on this video instead.